Hello, everybody. Thank you for listening. This is another episode of Coffee Can't Fix Everything. This is a show where I talk about mental health over a cup of coffee with a fabulous guest, and we got the homie, the influencer of influencers.
Wow.
I solely said that because I knew you were like, what is he talking about?
Me. Who is an interview?
Who are we talking about?
They sound great.
Yes, and that is you. That is you. Thank you for sitting down with me today.
Thank you. We're slowing down today.
We are slowing down in the slow down today. I appreciate it. Before I started recording, I came here frantically trying to get all this together. There are a few things that I really wanted to talk to you about today, and I think instead of choosing just one, I would love to talk about both of them because I think they are. I think they make sense together. I think there are parallels between the two different conversations, and I know one personally something that I have battled even now. Even with all the positive affirmations I get from people all over the place, people I don't even know. It's not like my mom's like, "You're the best, baby." You know, it's like random people who are telling me really positive things. I have struggled with imposter syndrome for a very long time, and trying to get to a place where I can talk that talk, like, you know what? I am good at this. It's easier said than done. So I would love to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah.
And also, I just left the conference today, and one of the things that they was talked about was, what's your third place? So your first place is your home, second place is work, but where's the third place you go for safety or support or comfort, whatever that looks like? So I want to talk about all those things with you today.
Yeah, I'm excited.
So imposter syndrome, what is your journey with it?
I think it's definitely still a journey. I think when I think of imposter syndrome, I think of when I first started performing and what it's like to doubt yourself but do it anyway. I think people might be surprised to know I sat at open mics for 2 months before I actually signed up and did it.
Really?
Like, I was in the back corner, too nervous to even sign up, wanted to like upchuck at the thought of going up there. And I'm not a shy person, for anyone who's unaware. I wouldn't say it's a high quality of mine. I'm not shy. I'm not usually very quiet, and I try not to make myself little. I learned at a young age that I'm going to be big and I'm going to have a big presence, and I try to own that. And so I think when it finally came to starting to perform, I was able to tap into that a little bit, but it took me a while to get there. And watching open mics, and then 2 months in, I finally signed up, and I did maybe, I don't know if I was up there for 2.5, 3 minutes, maybe the full 5. And then when I got done, I immediately hopped off the stage, ran to the back door, out the back alley, and just cried. I just sobbed for a few reasons, mainly because I knew that my dad was never going to see me on this journey that I had just embarked on, which made me really emotional and sad. But then also because because of the buildup. Like, I built it up to be this thing that it wasn't, but I also knew it was. Like, I knew it was a turning point for me. And so to have that imposter syndrome leading up to it, that fear, listening to the fear and doubt, but doing it anyway, I think that's I guess where the magic happens, is when you're able to have the fear and have the doubt, but do it anyway. But the imposter syndrome of being a successful performer and also having my personal life be something that I'm really struggling with has also been a hard dynamic to deal with. But that's why my shows were the way they were, in the sense that I showed up as authentically as I could, meaning if I just lost my job or if I got broken up with or whatever it was, I was going to use it as material in a way to address it and not to make light of it, but not to always make light of the darkness, but to hold space for both. Because I think that's my default, is like, oh, this super hard, horrible thing happened, but look at this really great thing that came out of it. And I think I'm super quick to switch those shifts, switch that. Like, I'm quick to make it go from good to or bad to good as quickly as possible, and to transform it into like grief, with all my grief, I was like, oh, let's just turn it into gratitude, like I suffered all this loss.
Interesting.
Let's just travel the world. Or if I poured it into whatever new experience I could. But when the shows stopped and I really sat with some of that, the imposter syndrome is back again because I've taken a step back and I don't know that I'm as successful or as worthy as I once was. And I feel a little lost in that right now.
Do you feel like, I really love that. Do you feel like it was because you didn't really deal with the imposter syndrome? You just tried to fight through the emotion and was just doing whatever you could to not have that feeling?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people do that.
Mm-hmm.
Is what you said earlier, doing it anyway. First of all, I want you to walk me through that feeling of doing it anyway, because that is hard. That is hard to do.
Yeah, and I don't know at what point it's like at some point we all have the thing that makes us take the leap, whatever it is that it's, leaving the job or starting the business or, taking the class or asking the person out on a date, whatever the thing is that we're doing. I think we often wait for the fear to pass. And what I've learned through my Bible, which is called what I call my Bible is Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. It's creative living beyond fear. And she talks about how fear it's easier for you to take the ride of life and ride on the journey if fear you let him in the car. Because trying to get him out of there, he's not... He's coming along for the ride regardless, so the more you fight him and act like he's not going to be there, you're never going to do anything probably, because you'll always be a little bit too scared to. But if you can let fear in, but let fear know that it can sit in the back seat and it can't control the radio and it has no say in the direction we're going and it can't control the Google Maps and it can't, if you don't give it that power but you invite it along for the ride, it's easier for you to get going. And that's what it felt like for me, was like, I'm figuring out how to do a show in a pandemic. I've never done comedy before. Like I've never, I hadn't done these things before. I've never been a show producer, or let alone a host and a headliner and all the things, a promoter, a graphic designer, like all these hats that I all of a sudden was like,
yeah, it's you.
Who decided to do all this? And it was me. And I think that was more, when I think of kind of doing it for my younger self or doing it for the girl that knew she wanted to try that. And I'm proud of myself for doing that. But I think you do it anyway in more ways than we realize, even going to work on a tough day or dealing with your kids on a tough day. Like, I think we're doing it anyway, but sometimes we need to acknowledge that fear and that imposter syndrome and sit with that a little bit more as to why we're doubting ourselves. Or I mean, I've been feeling so less, I just feel less than, I feel worthless, these things I would normally never say to myself. But we can get very unkind, very easily. And that for me, it feels like this radio station that I can't seem to, like my radio's broken. I'm just stuck on this one frequency and I can't change it.
Yeah, you can't change it. And what's so interesting about that analogy is there'll be people who will come to me and say, man, there is beautiful music here. And I'll be like, I don't hear it. Like,
where?
What are you listening to?
Yeah.
Like, I can't acknowledge that I have done something. Yeah, I did this really cool thing, but why doesn't it feel like I did something impactful? And that had been a feeling for me for a very, very long time.
Yeah.
Like almost downplaying some of the things that maybe I have done, or even someone that I know has done. Not me downplaying what they have done, but witnessing, like, hey man, that was dope that you did. Yeah, it was all right. It was, like, no, that wasn't.
Why do we do that? Yeah.
Yeah, why do we do that?
Yeah.
Like, I can't quite put my finger on it. And to go back to what you're saying about doing it anyway, and this is one thing about imposter syndrome that I'm learning about myself, is doing it anyway for me is so physically and mentally draining that, like, after I do something that I am terrified to do, you will never know it. You'll never know that inside I'm like, and I do it, and I look cool, calm, and collected, and then once I leave, I'm like, what the? I feel like I just got in a fight.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm excited about when I go on my own therapy journey. Is really working through that and being able to, because it gets to the point sometimes, where it's like I can't even like be happy or appreciate some of the things I have done that are really, really cool. And that's not cool.
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't say that to you. I wouldn't say you shouldn't appreciate creating a whole thing during a pandemic.
It's true, yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I'd be bigging you up. And I'm like, why can't some people, I'm just talking about myself, I don't know, I can't speak for anybody else, but like, why couldn't I have been happy about creating a conference that I've never done before, and people actually showed up and liked it?
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, this is cool, but like, is it?
Did I do this? It's that doubt sinks in so quickly, and it makes me think of like the fact that we don't always. I think it's important to be present and grateful in the moment, and then I think when you can channel that, it helps you to stay grounded. But I also think there's a lot going on up there in the noise sometimes. And similarly to you, I recently did a show, my last show of the Considerate Quarrel series, part 3, and I broke down I was probably an hour and a half before showtime. And the lineup was gracious with me, and we had a deep conversation backstage about being artists and creatives and humans, and it was beautiful. And then, when you get done doing something, when you get done powering through something like that, and you can't, at the end, people said some really nice things to me, and I remember them, and I can reflect on them now, but in the moment, it was like they were trying to give me a love letter, and my mailbox was closed. It was like not going in. And I'm like, and then I feel bad and guilty and shameful because why can I not receive this? That's, something's blocking here. And a friend had suggested to me, she said, well, when was the last time you wrote a love letter to yourself? And I was like, oof, called out. And one of the prompts I do, I haven't done it as recently, but one of the prompts I do, also from Elizabeth Gilbert, is, dear love, what would you have me know today? And you write that every day, and it's amazing what pours out. Like the love that I feel like I can say and share to myself. And like, dear child of the universe, dear like flesh and bone. Like if you get real, address it however you feel. But I think when you get to that point, it's like, how could you be an imposter or have imposter syndrome when you're the grand, being you are? I feel the same way when people say, you're such a light, I'm like, where? The light is off. It's darkness for me. And so the fact that people can see light out of our darkness, maybe this is the cyclical reminder, like it's, maybe we can't see it, but if they can believe it and see it on our behalf when we're struggling, then that can pull us out of it.
100%.
Yeah.
And I think that's the beauty of having just a good, you could say friends, but even community. Yeah. I think having a good, strong community around you, I feel like for the first time in a very long time for me, like I have a community of people that aren't going to sugarcoat anything for me, but if they're telling me something like, Corey, like you did a good job, or like there's no reason why you should be feeling like this, or even acknowledging how I feel but being like, hey, I'm here for you, I know it's coming from a place of love, and I can accept that more now than before. Because there are some things where people would tell me, and I'd be like, "Nah, you ain't talking about me. There's no way you're talking about me." And I'd be like, "Thank you," and I walk away like. But now I've started this practice of whenever somebody say anything, whether it's a compliment or saying they like the podcast, whatever it is, I used to always just kind of brush it off and be like, oh, it's all right. But I almost feel like that's disrespectful to them because they're really trying to do something loving. Yeah. And I've been trying to practice taking a moment and just tell them like, hey, I'm going to accept that from you. I appreciate that.
Naming it and vocalizing it. Yeah.
Like, I'm going to accept that. That's because powerful, people just don't say things to say things. There are people who say things to say things, but like for the most part, the interactions that I've had when it comes to like my struggle with imposter syndrome, no one's just saying something to me to make me feel better, right? They're just trying to acknowledge what I've accomplished, and they want me to. So I've been able to go, you know what? I'm going to accept that, and I really try to sit in that.
Yeah.
And for the longest time, Coral, that was uncomfortable.
Uncomfortable, yeah.
That was so uncomfortable. But like, I feel like I have to do it.
Yeah.
And that's really helped. It got to the point to where, in some situations, depending on what I'm talking about, what I'm doing, I can say, "Oh yeah, I am that guy." Like, I did do that.
Right.
It's not everything yet.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm making steps towards being able to do some of that more.
Absolutely. And I feel like even naming it in that way and saying it, you're giving yourself permission to receive, which is huge, because I think we don't sometimes often think of like the fact that you have to give yourself permission to receive. You can like let it wash
Right.
off you all day, and sometimes that's necessary to get through the day. But I think when someone takes time to honor something you've built, like I always think too of like the ripple effect. Like there are people that admire you and look up to you that you don't even won't say things. Like for the 5 that have said something, there might be 10 others that haven't said something,
real.
or one other.
That's
and
real.
It's always the days. I've kind of been on a social media break since the show, and it's always the days where I'm like, am I too much? Like was 12 stories too much today? Like did I overdo it with topless tarot? Like have I gone too far? And it's usually the days when I doubt myself that I always get in my request folder a message that's someone that's like, hey, I don't know you. I'm sitting in the Johnston Fairway, and I just have to say I've followed you. You know, like I followed you for 5 years, and it's like there's these people that are a part of my journey that like during COVID, that's what I did every day. I got on there and we either laughed together or cried together, had a White Claw at 10 a.m. in the shower together. Like we lived our lives through our screens, and I tried to make my home a safe place for people. And I think when I did that, for me, that's what really I think where I got the most fulfillment and the most success, I guess, and the most like abundance was when I learned to hold space for both of it and to let the people know that they're also not alone in that. And I think that I would say my gift, I'm probably just a vessel for that. Like I'm a vessel of light and energy and enthusiasm and effervescence and joy and all these things that I haven't truly felt recently. But I think that's one of my gifts is to hold the space for the light and the dark. And I have a unique way of doing that through comedy, through music, through whatever I'm doing. But I think the imposter syndrome is just another hat that it has as much power as we give it. Easier said than done, but it has as much power as we give it. And I think when we can really take a second to reflect on the things that we've gotten through and the things that we've built along the way, and then to just simply get back to, mental health awareness day was earlier this week. To really sit back and acknowledge that you just survived a day as a human being in a rock floating planet. Like just that you got through the day, and all the days that you didn't think you were going to get through that you got through, and you're still here. So how can you be an imposter when you've proven, all of that?
Right. That's so true. I want to go back to a few things. The first thing I want to go back to is, as you were talking, I started thinking about, the fear that's always with you. It's in the backseat. You were kind of talking about that. I don't know exactly that's how you said it, but
yeah, for sure.
The fear is always in the backseat. And I was just reflecting on those times where I've had those moments of fear, or I've had those moments of insecurity or imposter syndrome, and getting through it. And in reflection, realizing, man, every single time I've done something, there has been fear or something there.
Yeah.
So why is almost more energy to try to attack it than just to know you're going to be scared.
It's along for the it's a part of it. Yeah.
Regardless of it's going to be there. So why not just tell it to sit down and do your thing? I really, really like that. I like that a lot. And in a weird way, it kind of makes me feel more confident about doing more things. Does that make sense?
Because you're back in the back in the driver's seat, and you're. I think too, it's like sometimes we don't realize oh shit, like insecurity's been driving this whole time. Like, no wonder we're going off the road. Like, fear,
I don't feel
whoever's,
safe.
I don't feel safe. So weird because I'm not driving. That's what it is. Or like those student driver vehicles where there's like two. It's like, oh, we're both driving this. And I think that's where I've recently come to the conclusion too that grief has been my driver's seat or front side passenger for the past almost 7 years, and I'm finally learning that that's another thing that's not going anywhere, but it's going in the back seat. Like, it can't have the power and the hold that it's had over me the last 7 years, even though it's brought me some of the most beautiful and amazing life experiences through grief and through loss. But I think ultimately, much like fear, it's something that I let take the wheel for too long, and now I'm kind of like learning what it's like to take the wheel back, regain some of that, like you said, confidence. And even like now that you know that fear, and secretly, here's the big secret too that I think she talks about in the book, but it's like fear is looking out for you. Like, it's not even trying to sabotage you. It's just like, hey man, this is kind of scary. This could go wrong. These things could happen. I'm just looking out for you. It's not doing it from a place of attack. And I think that's how you learn to lead it with love, or like meet it with love, as far as, not aggressively throwing it in the backseat, but being like, hey man, thanks for being here, but you're kind of a downer. I need you to sit in the back. I need enthusiasm and joy and abundance and gratitude in the passenger seat. I need you to fine, you're welcome to join us, but kind of be in the back. And I think that hopefully by doing that, it's like the fear maybe hopefully the fear gets smaller, the grief or whatever it is that you're battling. But I think that when what's that meme? It's like, this doesn't get smaller, but the space around it gets bigger. And that's, I think, my hope with fear and imposter syndrome, is that those voices in my head, I can start to turn down and switch that radio station or keep it at a low murmur so it's not running my entire day in my life. Because those thoughts really, they matter. And when we embed them in our minds like that, when that's what we have on replay, we start to believe that narrative, and we know that's not true.
We know it's not true. And it could take you to a sunken place. And there's something that, Jennifer Lewis?
Yes, yeah.
Jennifer Lewis said this in an interview, and I'll never forget it because it's so true, and it truly does help me. And she said, how she put it, I want to make sure I say it correctly. The longer you sit in shit, it stops stinking. Yes. And it was hilarious. It was like, yo, that's not only funny, but it is so true. Yeah. The longer you sit in your shit, it will eventually stop stinking. Yeah. And you just get comfortable in your own mess.
Your own shit, yeah.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yes. And so whenever I get into those moments of insecurity or man, should I be doing this? Like, I start to try to get myself out of that as much as I can, because I know if I sit there too long, I'm not going to do anything. And then I'm going to start canceling stuff. And I'm going to say, no, we're not going to do that. I'm not going to do that now. Like, no. And I'm just going to just sit in the cut, because I'm just going to let myself just... And then what happens when... I'm just done. And I don't want to be done. Yeah. I got too much to do. But, yeah.
Wow. That's a powerful visualization, too, because it also feels like you can like... when you're in that slump and that slumber and in that place of lack and wallow, that's what you attract. Like, if you're in a state of fear and insecurity and lack, there you shall remain. And then to like tap into higher frequencies of abundance and gratitude and joy and happiness on all these other things seems so far away. And that's where I feel like I've been in a position of almost like I feel like I've been in a position of struggle and sort of survival mode for a while now, and I haven't quite addressed that. And I think why I've pulled away from performing and social media and things like that is because I don't feel like I have any right to do anything. It feels different this time. Like, normally I would talk my way through it and share my way through it. That's what I do. But this time I feel like I'm being very guarded, and I'm almost like crunching myself up and having to feel like I have to do it alone, or I have to do it on my own. I have to do it quietly, and I have to like figure out my shit until I can even share or post or do a performance, anything else. And that seems super counterintuitive to who I am and how I perform. Like, that's not how I do it. And so I don't know why that's a struggle this time, but I think it's something that when you get caught in that lack mindset, it's easy to just stay in it because that's that's your new normal. That's your new thing that you know. And it's hard to finally get up, dust yourself off, and then I literally was going to say dust yourself off and try again. You can listen and try again. So that's the moral of the story. You just got to dust yourself off and try again. Just keep trying.
See you next time. Thank you for listening to Coffee Can't Fix Everything.
Yes, exactly.
So I want to go back to something you said earlier, and I quote, White Claws at 10 a.m. in the shower.
God, those were the days, yeah.
And talking about the second topic is your third place, or space.
Yeah.
And this is something new that I just learned about this idea today. So like I'm not an expert in it, but it just got me thinking about where I have my home. I go home, that's one place. I have work. What is that third space or place for me? For me, not like that I have for, I got to go to work. I'm at home, but what is that third thing? What is that place for me? And I've been thinking about it all day. So I asked you. I got to ask somebody else now.
Yeah.
What is that third place for you? Like when you think about your third place, what is that?
I think, interestingly enough, I think about the slowdown because not only do I work here and have I worked here on and off since they opened, but being near the neighborhood and a part of this community, this has definitely felt like a third space to me. But I also work here, so it's very much work. Yeah. So I would say between my home, which I love, my home is very special to me. I manifested it from Paris. It's the only home I looked at. I knew it was it.
Oh, very cool.
There's a very cool backstory to the house and how I got it, but that place for me is my sanctuary, my oasis, my everything. But also, it sort of became my dungeon during COVID, and it was like this place that I loved, but it was like that was it. And I think where I suffered a little bit was not only living alone but working from home, and then the job shift that I'm embarking on is I'm going to go back to the office and have coworkers for the first time since February of 2020. And I think my nervous system is going to. I think I need that consistency and stability right now because I haven't had it, but I think I'm gonna.
It's gonna be an
freak
adjustment.
Out. Yeah, I think it's gonna be. I think it's gonna be adjustment to get up, get ready, get in my car, and go to an office. February 2020 was the last
Wow, but now you get your home back.
But now my home will be my safe space again and my sanctuary. So, with that being first, and then this TBD on the kind of job situation as far as I move forward with that and what that looks like as a second space. My third space used to be the comedy club. It used to be stages and performing, and it felt very much like that's where I belonged. That's where my community was. That's where I found solace and safety during the pandemic and after, and that was it. And then there was a shift where I think I'd given so much during the pandemic, and I think it'd been so hard for so long that it kind of was like, this is no longer serving me. Like, it served me, it got me through one of the hardest times, but now I have to recognize this ain't it anymore. And so I think I'm finding that what that third space is for me, and what, at different times it's been theater, and you have a community of people reading scripts and doing plays, and stand-up is a very isolating, very solo kind of moving performance. And it's interesting. Well, first of all, my friend Jess says hi, Jessica Nelson. She says hello, and she wanted me to give you a hug. And when you initially asked that question the first time, or that we'd be talking about it, I was thinking her arms. Like, I feel safe in her arms and in her friendship. And she's someone that has held a lot of space for me. And so I think of my friends and my close friends that have seen me through the worst of it, and I feel like I almost feel like I'm rebuilding that third space. Like, without comedy, without performance, without entertainment, what am I to people? And I think I struggle with that sometimes, because if I'm not on for you, or if I'm not on at the slow, if I'm not on wherever I'm at doing whatever I'm doing, I'm pretty low, and I'm kind of figuring out what that third safe space is.
So, few thoughts.
Yeah.
One, I I feel the same way as far as the more I think about it, my third place isn't a place. I think it is people for me. And I think specifically, the past couple years, I've been in Des Moines since 2009. And 2001 was the first time since I've been here that I've had a group of black men that I could relate to as friends.
Wow.
The first time. And for me, that has been so, like, I just been so giddy about it. Like, I have not just black men, but black men my age that, like, know we're going through the same things. Like, we know the same, like, we get the same type of references. Or, like, I don't feel weird going out to kick it with them because they're not 30 years older than me. You know,
Right.
you know what I mean? And that has been such a great space for me. Or I can just send shout out to Larry, who's my brother. I can send him 30 video messages in text, and he'll watch everyone and respond, and he'll send one back.
That's loyalty right there. Yeah, that's top tier friendship.
Yeah,
Wow.
I will give him a warning. I'll say, warning, long videos coming. And it's vice versa. And I think for me, that is good. So I can't think of an actual place where I go. I just think it's just having community.
That community around you.
Coming here. Like, the slowdown, and shout out to the slowdown, but the slowdown is my cheers.
It is. It is, yes.
This is where I go, where everybody knows.
Exactly.
But look, I can't be like you were a witness. I got a coffee as soon as I walked in.
You don't have to even say anything. It just appears. It just appears. I literally saw a meme last night that was like, when you realize you're older than the cast members of Cheers when it first started, and I was like, oh my gosh. I didn't need to see that. I didn't need to see that. But that's amazing. And I feel like, having witnessed you here in the space quite a bit, I feel that for you. And I feel like the people that, it's interesting that the people that curate around you and like come to your, I don't want to say rescue necessarily, but come to your, sometimes we just need to ask for help. And we just need to have that help around us. And I feel like when you find that community, that's a huge thing. So I'm glad that you found that and that you've been able to, build that community.
100%. And I was going to say for you, I think, because I understand how it feels to feel like you have to be on for people. Look, for the longest time, I'm 6'3", 280. Some people may find that intimidating. So I gotta be like, hey, I could be like, hey, I'm not gonna hurt you. You know what I'm saying? I gotta be funny and like, hey, I'm cool with, so people can be like, oh, okay, right? And then when I pass, I'm like, whew, okay, stupid. You know, like,
yes, exactly.
But I feel like once you find, I feel like you have those people like Jessica that you can be who you are, and they're not going to be like, are you okay? You know, like, what's wrong? They're like, oh, that's just the vibe, right? And that's okay. Yeah. And that is okay. You know what I mean? I think when you find those people like that, like, I think that's energizing for me, where I don't have to like just be on or tell a joke every 5 seconds. Yeah. Or like, bruh, I can try and do all that all the time. Yeah. I am by nature a very positive person. Doesn't mean I'm like at home just sitting down like, this is so great.
Everything is great all the time.
Everything is great all the time.
I so feel that. And I do feel like when you're in a position of being able to be that light for people, or to give them your onness, gives them, brings something to them. And I feel like there's a difference when you're in alignment with that. And I can tell when I'm in alignment with it, and I'm a vessel for, like, I would say I'm a writer at my core, like, first and foremost a writer. And so when I write and things come to me at 3 a.m. and I'm in my note app and it just flows, like, that's when I feel like in my most divine alignment. And I feel like when you're not in that, it's just, it's just different. Things don't
Yeah.
work the same. You don't feel the same and all that. And so I feel like when you have people that can hold the space for you through the funk and the, almost at the chrysalis, like what I felt these last few months, like globally, like cosmically, is like the pressure around the pearl. And I'm like, I'm ready to be a pearl. I just want to be a pearl. But instead it's like making you uncomfortable, making things shift in your world, making these changes or making you have to make some changes. And then you're like, now I've come out of it. Now I've come out of the chrysalis of the muck and the gunk and the like icky months. And I think it's important that people see you through that, which is why I think it's so important that I share that, because I don't ever want someone to think that it's like it just happens or just like I just wake up like this unicorn sunshine rainbow. There are days where it's happened for sure, but it's not the norm and it's not the consistent. And in recent years, that's really been a struggle for me. And I always think of this Robin Williams post where it's like it was a funny, headshot of Robin Williams and it was this whole thing. And then the second post was about more about the mental health side of things. And I always think of like how we put people in that light of we either put them on a totem pole or celebrity. I mean, you can go in so many different directions with that. But I guess what I'm trying to say is that we look at the people around us as though they're not humans living the same hard human experience. And I think that we need to, like, our coworkers, our bosses, our directors, our leadership, I mean, everyone is a literal flesh and bone living a human experience, different than yours, maybe similar than yours. But I think that when we can remember that globally, like, humanity is well beyond our own selves, I think it gives us hopefully a kinder, softer voice to ourselves, because that's where it starts. It's like how I'm talking to myself and the thoughts that I'm having and the words that I'm saying and the way I'm treating myself, and that extends to your family and your friends and your circles. And I think that when we can maybe just turn down the noise of our own bullshit and like tune into the frequency of those who love and light around us, then that just transcends and evolves from there.
No, that's real. And we are going to end on that because I don't want to say anything else. Coral, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Holding this space with me today.
Absolutely.
I was really excited. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
For those listening, thank you for listening. I am not a mental health therapist. There will be links in the description to resources if you need them. And because I love you, I want you to get those resources. Again, coffee can't fix everything, but we will destigmatize the conversation one coffee at a time. I'll holler at you next time.